everybody. Welcome to the last database security office hours of 2023. That's pretty crazy to say. Hope you had a great year, and we look forward to seeing you in January, right? So with 2024 upon us. My name is Richard Evans. I'm a product manager of Oracle Database Security, and I'm joined by my friend and colleague here, Pedro, who is the product manager of DB Security Assessment Tool with our exciting version 3.0 we're going to talk about today. Before we get into that, this call is being recorded and it will be available on the Ask Tom platform a week or so after the event. If you're subscribed to the Ask Tom page and this series, then you should get a notification that the video is posted. This is your session. Thanks for joining us. This is your first time here. Welcome. We do these on the second Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. U.S. Central. This is a glimpse inside of Oracle Database Security, product management, product development. We like to put out new information here for you, so we'll talk about some announcements. We'll do a technical topic. This month is Pedro talking about DBSAT version 3. If you have a topic that we haven't talked about, please let us know. You can let us know in the chat or the Q&A or email us. But we're always looking for new and different things to talk about that are database security focused. And we've got 4 years worth of presentations or so out there at this point around that. Updates, we always talk about patching. Please stay on top of your patching. The October patch looks like it has a couple revisions out there. I went out and looked at that oracle.com/security-alerts and saw, oh, okay, revision 5 was released on the 8th of December. You know, pull that one down. The January patching is coming up here soon. Oracle's got patching notes out there. Mike Dietrich is really the kind of the guru when it comes to patching and upgrades. Please stay on top of patching. It's really kind of the fundamental thing you need to do to protect your investment, right? Whether it's operating system, database, network devices, applications, please stay on top of patching. We've harped on this. I mean, we have mentioned this. We have talked about migrating from traditional to unified auditing all year long. With 23C, the traditional auditing is desupported. Now, it's desupported for you to create new policies or for you to update existing traditional policies. What you have there will remain if you're upgrading with 23, but you won't be able to create new traditional audit policies. So it's an excellent time for you to take a look at unified audit policies, how you can use them, the advantages of them. And then there's a syntax converter that's out there on My Oracle support that generate unified audit policies from current traditional audit configuration that can kind of help you with that, but it doesn't know the purpose behind auditing. So it's a good opportunity for you to say, okay, well, DBSAT 3 comes out. Let's look at this. Let's run it. Let's maybe look at some of where our sensitive data is and our policies are. Maybe we want to look at data safe. Maybe we want to look at Audit Vault and Database Firewall. Let's think about how we can improve our auditing as we move toward 23C, right? This applies if you're on 19C. You can take advantage and utilize unified auditing. I would definitely recommend taking a look at it and updating to unified audit policies, okay? For support, the DBSAT documentation is very good, but it's not perfect, right? We look at all of our documentation pretty much all day long. And I mean, there's typos there in my docs I've reviewed that have been there for years that we just gloss over. So please take a look at the documentation. If you have any feedback, you can file a doc bug or email us. We work with the doc writers on a weekly basis. Let us know. You download DBSAT from My Oracle support, and Pedro will talk more about that, but that's the doc ID out there for you. And then kind of the comprehensive note is the same one out there. So information related to DBSAT that we don't put in the documentation, like, hey, if you get this error, then do this, or when this happens, do this. So information that we put in there that you may not get out of the documentation, we try to put into the to that My Oracle support note. And now what I will do is I'll share with you the link to this GitHub repository. And this GitHub repository has these links here for you. So you don't have to memorize those numbers. You can go out to our GitHub Ask Tom DB security page and then see pretty much everything we're talking about today in this database security office hours. Best way to get your hands on database security assessment, obviously just pull it down into your own environment, run it on a test system, then run it in production, understand what's going on. If you want to run it on Oracle's dime, we have Oracle LiveLabs, and the LiveLab for DBSAT has been updated with version 3. So you can go out there, you can run this as a green button lab, we call it, and then run it on Oracle's dime for a couple hours. We've got over 40 live labs out there that are security focused. The majority of them can be run on Oracle's dime as a green button lab. So you can spin it up and get your hands on unified auditing and go through that lab, TDE, Key Vault, Auto Vault and Database Firewall, Database Vault, TLS. If you want to do one-way TLS and understand how to do that, we've got a lab out there on that. We try really hard to give you the tools to be able to try out Oracle database security products and features in a safe environment. So please check out Oracle Live Labs if you haven't done that yet. We've got some really good labs out there for you. And then next month, we are into 2024, and we're kicking the year off right. I'm going to talk about Oracle Database Vault and how you can secure your Oracle databases with this fantastic additional option here, right? So keep database administrators out of the data, protect application credentials from being misused or abused. That's not a very US friendly time zone there, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. UK time. But if you're in Europe, if you're in Asia, hopefully that's a good time for you. And join us on January 24th for that. And then Pedro is giving the maximum security architecture for regulatory compliance Techh Lounge presentation on February 7th. All right, sir, over to you.
Yeah, so today's session will be about DBSAT 3.0. Probably what I'll do is I'll go through the deck and I will answer some questions just before the demo and then at the end of the session. Okay, so DBSAT 3.0 is a popular command line tool to assess the security posture of Oracle databases. And we released 3.0, which is a major release, comes after 2.2.2, mid-November. So it's still fresh. And today I'll cover a bit about the new features. I'll talk about the new features. I'll talk also about DBSAT itself. There might be some people on the call that have never heard about DBSAT, so this is your chance to get to know it. And then I'll do a demo just for you to know how it is run and briefly describe some new settings that are there, so you can at least see them, and that's it. And I hope it's useful. So I'll start a bit with the why DBSAT. Well, and one good reason is what you don't know can hurt you, right? So we know hackers have all the time, they have all the resources, they have all the tools, they have pretty much everything they need to automate an attack. And without knowing much about database security, how to execute an attack, how to cover tracks, they can actually launch an attack. And we don't want to be in a position where hackers know more than we do, and we want to know what we have. We want to know how we can better protect our data. And that's all DBSAT is about. So we should know if the database is configured according to Oracle best practices. If we don't know, that might become a problem. We might have inherited some databases and we don't know what controls are already in place. This is a good way to check what policies you have in place. What other security controls are available to me? I think this is a good one. I don't know about you, but I'm working with Oracle for more than 20 years, and I feel I know 10%. So if there are some stuff out there that can help me, if it becomes ready and in front of me in a report, I appreciate that. If I can read it, if I can learn about it in a security report, I think that is good. It will provide value. It will make me go, maybe when I go back to the documentation, I'll go after something that I heard about and not looking in completely in the blank and in the dark and try to understand what is available. So we also provide details on what security controls are available. We need to know who are the users that are in my databases and what they can do. And also if the database holds any sensitive data. We know as well, after running thousands of security assessments in our customer base, that these are the top 10 things that you will find. Okay, and most likely you will, if you run DBSAT or if you assess the security state of your databases in your company, you will probably hit, if not all, some of these top 10 findings. And I'll try to go quickly through them, but usually, and we still see this, there is no database security strategy or policies in place. So it's very likely that you have network security guidelines, if you have a cookbook, if you have all of those things, if you have, maybe you even have endpoint protection policies, you need to have antivirus and malware, protection from malware, all of that. But in what regards databases, you might not have that. You might not have a guideline on how to properly secure your databases. These things changed over the last year, so we are now seeing customers that already have such policies in place, but still it's a common thing that we find in our customer base. So we are still preaching, if you know what I mean. So patching, it's also usually behind. So if you don't patch your database, what it means is that an attacker will know what are the vulnerabilities, because once we release the CVEs are made public, the vulnerabilities are disclosed. We have the patch for you to apply. If you don't apply the patch, whoever is looking into the CVEs will know that you are vulnerable. So the only thing they need to know is what is the database version you are running. And after that, they can just go through the list, use one of those tools again. Some of them will try to automate exploits leveraging CVEs. So it's very important for you to patch. I would say probably it's the most important thing. You should patch, okay? Another thing is there's no personalized accounts. So that means that people still share accounts, especially high privileged accounts. So that means that you are also not having proper separation of duties in place, and you are not implementing the least privilege model. So you end up having overprivileged accounts. There is no encryption of sensitive and regulated data in databases. There's frequently no auditing or poor auditing in place. There are no password, or I should say loose password management or weak password management. So no password verification functions. The profiles are weak. So your users will be easier to target. There's propagation or copy of your production data in other environments. And when I say other, it's not just dev, test, and training. Might be pilot, might be even business analytics. There are some scenarios where you don't really need usernames in there, or customer names, or addresses, and all these things. So it's very important to anonymize non-production systems data. You can still find some sample accounts, and I found a Scott user in a database last week, which still amazes me. And that just remind me that I think a year back or two, one of my ex-colleagues got a call from a previous customer asking if he knew the password for a certain user that he created in the database. And I was like, oh my God, yes. So after he left the company, he was doing some outsourcing. The account is there, and they were calling him back for the password. I don't know why, but these things still happen. So sample accounts, ghost accounts, clean those up. No anonymization of data sent to third parties. You could be sending data for example, some tasks that are executed offshore. For example, functional testing of your applications. If you are doing that, you should anonymize data, and no OS hardening. So these are the top 10 things that we usually find, and that DBSAT will help you to find as well. So DBSAT is a command line tool that is free to use for Oracle customers with an active support contract and partners, of course, and it will essentially give you the columns that are there with a red headline. So it will give you details about your configuration. So if it's patched, if you are encrypting data, auditing policies in place, OS file permissions, database configuration, listener configuration, fine-grained access control, and more. We'll also help you identify risky users by checking several role and privilege grants for database accounts. And these two things are part of the security assessment report. And the third column is it will help you to start a discovery process in case you want to do that. It can also help you there. It provides you a different report, which is the sensitive data assessment report. We provide sample files for sample pattern files for English, of course, and then Greek, German, Dutch, French, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese. So that means if you have your data model in a different language, by this I mean other than English, you can also use these sample pattern files to get you up to speed and try to help identify sensitive data. In the end, it will give you some summary and detailed information about the findings. It will help you to prioritize as we assign a risk level to these things. The risk assessment also do mappings to GDPR, STIG, and CIS benchmark, and runs on Oracle Database 11G to 23C, okay? A point that's worth explaining is the mappings. We map to EU GDPR, STIG, and CIS. And if you know a bit about these things, you'll know that, well, these are different beasts, I should say. So the CIS benchmark is pretty much a technical focused framework. So this is the objective of this. This is what you should check. Look at the output. If this returns this, it's a pass. If not, it's a fail. Just like that. The STIG is a bit of a mix of technical and process-related stuff. So you still have those checks, but they are mixed with some processes. Well, run this query, then look at the output, check against the list that you might store somewhere, and if the users are there, they are authorized. If not, they are not. And STIG was developed by Department of Defense, DISA, and it's mainly used in the US for federal government. But this being said, of course, and it happens with all these things around security, if there are some best practices that are good in the US, they might be good elsewhere, right? So some customers in Europe also follow STIG, and they are not even from the public sector, from other industries or CIS. The GDPR is a bit different. GDPR is a regulation, so in fact, what it lays is in essence the law that governs this data privacy and tries to protect European Union citizens' data. And GDPR is a law. So when we say we map to GDPR, actually you should read it as we highlight what are the technical controls that can help you to address recital X or article Y, okay? So it means that just by reading the law, you might not be sure what kind of technology is around that can help you to sort that out. And what we do is we list that mapping there. So you'll know that data reduction might help you with data pseudonymization or masking. Okay, so that's what we mean when we say we map to EU GDPR. So on DBSAT 3.0 that we released in November, the main focus was on adding or updating the STIG rules for the V2R8. But this being said, and I should say it, it doesn't mean that you are not following STIG, that you should not care about DBSAT 3.0. That it's not that. It's clearly not that, as we've done a lot more than just adding the 30 STIG findings. So that was a big part of the job, of course. We added the 30 STIG findings. We updated all the group IDs. We got rid of the ones that are no longer valid. And we did a lot more. We added a check for the Oracle Database 23C SQL Firewall. We added 5 new auditing findings and updated all auditing findings. We added 1 finding on sensitive data and transparent sensitive data protection. We updated the info patch, the encryptd, the net encrypt, the user out version, and a lot more. You can see these in the ones that were updated in the release notes. We added support for India permanent account number and other number sensitive types. We spent a huge amount of time, and thank you, Rich, for that as well. We reviewed all the recommendations and remarks that we provide in all findings to make sure we are saying it in a way that is clear. We are saying we are setting the right recommendations and all that. So everything was reviewed. Actually, I can tell you we touched roughly, and depending on how we count this, because we touched some files we touched more than the others, but we touched roughly 75% of DBSAT code in this release. So it's really a major difference comparing to the previous one. We also added a one-line summary. We were feeling that, okay, you are giving me all these paragraphs, but I really need to read all of that to understand what I need to do with the finding. So we decided to come up with this one-line summary that highlights the objective and the context of each check, that helps you to quickly identify what you need to do. Okay, so I'll show you in the next slide. We also decided to start tagging the best Oracle best practices. I'll also cover that. And we also added remarks on desupported features or features that will be desupported in 23C, so you can get better prepared once that time arrives. Okay, so you can run an assessment now. It will tell you, these things will be deprecated in 23C. Please take care. And if you run it on 23C, it will also say that. We updated rule IDs. We did add a new option to exclude users from the report. In case you know some of those users, you want to reduce noise, you can just remove those. We removed the requirement for you to have Python to run the reporter, so that's no longer the case. We optimized performance and data collection, and we added support for Linux 64-bit ARM and 23C. So big and a lot of new things, and packed with new features. So the new findings are these ones, and totaling, so the new ones and the old ones total now 121. And you'll see we touched some of the rule IDs. So we used to have one out dot something. The section that was called out is now out Z for authorization. And there was one called crypt that, of course, we know that, but somehow it escaped our previous reviews. Crypt can have a different meaning, so we got input and feedback, so we changed it to encrypt. Now I think it's a bit more clear what it means. Not that someone will confuse a crypt with encryption when you are assessing a database, but that's a different story. And we expanded some of the some of the IDs to make it more clear. So database vault instead of DBV and things like that. Installation user, I don't know, a bunch of other things that we expanded. So this is a new sample finding. We have the title, we have the rule ID, we have the expanded rule ID, we have the one-liner. So for example, this one, users with no password complexity requirements. So ensure password verify function is set in user profiles. So I know what I need to do. I need to ensure that user profiles have a password verification function. The finding will tell me that, well, we found 12 users not governed by a password verification function. We list the profiles that have one. We list the profiles that do not have one, and we list the users that are not subject to this verification. So by looking at this, I know, okay, so all these users, I can do different types of analysis. Well, do I need these users? Can I drop Scott? Can I drop Blake? Can I drop Adams? Maybe they are sample accounts. What about the other users? Can I move them to using a profile that checks for the password complexity instead of having users in the database with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 as a password? So this provides you enough insight, and then we say we have the remarks, we have the references to these STIG, CIS benchmark, and the Oracle best practice, where whenever we feel this is a best practice. And we also show you the status, high, medium, low, advisory, and evaluate. So as a recommendation, you should at least review all findings marked as high, medium, and evaluate. Why evaluate? Well, evaluate are for such cases where the tool alone could not identify if this is good or this is bad. And you'll see some of these cases in whenever we check users and role grants and privileges. For example, the priv DBA, you have users with a DBA role. You have 5 users. You have 5 DBAs. The tool do not know if you have, how many DBAs do you have. But if you have 5 DBAs, if every user is using a nominated account, a specific account, that might be okay. If you have 5 users with DBA role and you actually have 20 persons or 20 different colleagues that are database administrators, that might mean that they are sharing accounts. So that's not good, right? So we say evaluate, please go and check if this makes sense for you. That is an example. There are some exceptions. I mean, for example, if you grant DBA or PDB DBA to public, we will raise a risk instead of saying evaluate, because that is definitely wrong. Okay, we should not do that. But so that is a good one. What else can I say here before I forget? Yes, findings are not executed the exact same way for different target types. So what does that mean? So if you run DBSAT against an on-premises database, or you run it against autonomous database, it will flag in some findings things in a different way. And you'll get to know what are these findings that can be different by reading the appendix, I think appendix A of the user guide, the DBSAT user guide. But to give you an example, for example, the data exfiltration finding. So there are certain ways that are known that the user can use to exfiltrate data from an Oracle database for on-premises databases. But for example, if you are using an autonomous database, and we also differentiate between shared and dedicated in some cases. If you are using an autonomous database, there are some of those things are not possible, but there are other ways. For example, there might be some other packages, and we check that. Okay, and that is also true for different versions of the database. So if you are assessing a 12C database and you are assessing a 19C or 23C database, you might see different things. You might not even see a finding if that doesn't make sense. If we got rid of it, if it's not possible to change, we don't show you the finding. So expect that. So expect that this will give you tailored recommendations based on the target type. Okay. So, Pedro, you have mentioned Oracle best practice. So what is the Oracle best practice tagging, which is a new thing? So that means that we clearly mark checks that we, Oracle, believe that are considered best practices, and all customers should be following them. So there are some things that are not, for example, are not in CIS, are not in STIG that we advocate, so we flag that as OBP. There are some things that are on CIS and this is STIG that we think it's a good idea, so we also flag it as OBP. So you might have a finding with just STIG, STIG and OBP, STIG, CIS and OBP. So, and all the possible combinations here, right? So what we are doing now is we clearly flag the ones with Oracle best practice. If you want to, and you should follow those ones, along with any other framework if you choose to follow, or if you are mandated to choose. So, and why these Oracle best practices findings might not be in STIG or CIS? Well, there are 4 main reasons for that. I'll try to go briefly through it. Well, one is the STIG or CIS committee might have not understand that as a risk. They might have not picked yet that new feature, and they don't have the broad and depth of knowledge that we have for some specific feature, for example. Or we released in a patch that was backported, and now that suddenly that check is on 19C CIS, but it's not on 12, for example, or 23C 21 and not on 18 or 19. So that can happen. And also out of sync issues between or drifts, I would say. It's I think this is normal. We cannot aim to release in sync, but it happens, is natural that we release a database version and then the standard was released before or is released after, but we then release the patch, So there's a bunch of reasons why this might happen. The value of DBSAT, in my opinion, is that it doesn't only cater for CIS and STIG. We also have Oracle best practices that are not there in the standard. And it adds a lot more value if your goal is really to protect your data in the database. We try to come up with the checks for all things where we believe there's some risk around it. I can give you some examples later. Let's see if we get there. So another new thing is the 23C desupport notices. You'll start to see that in some findings we have this starting Oracle Database 23C label security cannot be used with OID since Directory Integration Platform is being deprecated. So we recommend that you do this. The same thing on traditional auditing. Rich already spoke about it. In auditing findings, if you are using traditional auditing, we are telling you, well, keep in mind that this is supported in 23C, so you can no longer create any traditional auditing policies in 23C. They will still run, okay? But if you want to create new, you should create with unified audit syntax. And there is also a MOS note, I believe Rich also mentioned, that allows you to download a kind of a script that will help you to migrate from traditional to unified auditing policy. So it's the time to do that. The time is now. Some other new findings: application owner account. We identified the top user in the database with most objects and who can access those objects. We will optimize this finding in the next DBSAT version because we are hitting some cases where there are many users with access to the application owner account. We also have this finding on shared accounts, and by shared we mean the way we implemented it is to check users with multiple administrative privileges. So that means that if a user is having SysKM and SysDG administrative privileges, that might mean that is either one guy doing multiple things or are 2 guys sharing an account to do multiple things. So that's not a good idea. So you should have segregation of duties. We flag, we don't raise a risk. We just say evaluate these shared accounts. If it makes sense for your organization, well, go ahead with it. We advise against, but we cannot raise a risk here. And we also check proxy users, and we list, okay, so this user can connect through this one as well, through this one, and we list all of that. You can then go through the priv sysadmin finding and check, well, SysDG, I have Scott, SysDG, and Zeus, and SysKM, I have Zeus here. So yeah, this guy is actually sharing these two administrative privileges and might compromise segregation of duties. These findings on using TSDP, transparent sensitive data protection. So if you flagged on the database columns as sensitive using TSDP, they will now show up in this user.sensitive data finding, and it will also show up in the data masking finding. So if you have columns that you have identified as sensitive, you took the time to flag those. So that means they are sensitive. If they are sensitive, you should be anonymizing these things when you move to non-production. And this finding is mostly informative. Okay, so yeah, these are the things. We essentially say, well, please make sure you anonymize these data when you move to non-production. Objects accessible by public. Okay, so we also list this. We go into the read-only Oracle OHM. We check if it's read-write or read-only. We recommend that you have a look into read-only Oracle OHMs. We list schemas containing packages, stored procedures, and functions. This is a STIG thing, and the main reason is for this check. And as you can read from the one-liner, check sensitive data exposed through error messages in stored programs. So this means if you have a package or a stored procedure or a function and you are throwing some error messages, that you don't let go more information than the strictly necessary information, okay? Because you might reveal too much information if a hacker is trying to execute a package and get details, for example, about the version or about some other things that you might be using. You need to be careful here. So, and this comes from STIG. We also believe it's a good idea to check. So we had flagged it as Oracle best practice. We check for the installation of Connection Manager in the database server. And if it's there, if you are using, if you have remote admin enabled. We also check the diagnostics desk parameter now, so it's also there. And on the auditing part, we updated a bunch of findings, and we show you these audit management configuration parameters. For that, you need to do an additional grant to the DBSAT user on DBA audit management config params, and this might be a good one if you are looking after improving some auditing related settings. So we also show that if you don't have the grant in that user, what will happen is you will not see the table, okay? But the report will still run and the collection will still run. Okay, the firewall finding will also let you know if it's enabled or disabled, users, and if that are subject to the policies, if you are using the context or the SQL allow lists, and if it's being enforced or just observing in observing mode. So you also see that. That's pretty much on the new findings. How it can help you on these three specific things: know your overall database security posture, your users' roles and privileges, and know your sensitive data. So yeah, so I'm here, and I guess you can see my terminal, right? So you go to the My Oracle support note that Rich shared. You click the I agree link that is there. You download DBSAT. You transfer it to the database server, and on the database server you unzip it. On the database server, I suggest that you run the collect. So the collect is the thing that I suggest that you run on the database server, because if you run it remotely, you can run it remotely, but you will miss the operating system checks, okay? So you can run collect on the database server. So it goes like this. You type DBSAT, collect, you pass the username. I've created a user with the minimum privileges required to run this thing. You pass the service name, and you give it a name without any extension, and you press enter. You'll give it a password to connect to the database, and it will collect metadata. So what will happen is after it collects data, you can, if you want, you can transfer the output of DBSAT collect to your laptop and execute the report on your laptop. Okay, the report does not connect to the database. It just analyzes the connected data. You can safely ignore the warnings. The warnings are there just saying, well, I tried to check these folders and all these things, and I could not access it. You can safely ignore. Warnings, are not errors, okay? You provide a password to encrypt the collector file, and you're done. So you have here a zip file that inside has a JSON file. Okay, that's it. So you can grab this file, either send to someone else for analysis, if that is the case, analyze yourself on your laptop. It's also okay. DBSAT is supported to run on Windows. It's supported to run on all platforms where the Oracle database is certified. So you can run on AIX, the collector, and then run the reporter on Windows or on a Linux box. That doesn't matter much. So what I'll do now is I'll run the second step, which is the DBSAT report. And what I need to do is I just need to handle the same file. I don't pass the zip file. It's just the name, DBSAT report, and you press enter. You press the password to unzip the collector JSON file, and then it will analyze and it will ask you for a password to password protect the output report. So, okay, I'll give you a password again, and it's done. And you'll see that here you'll see it will generate the same report in 3 different formats: text, HTML, Excel, and JSON. We see people using mostly the HTML report. The text might be good in case you want to copy paste to some other file. The Excel, in case you want to keep track of if you are working on it, if you want to change the risk level for some of these things, you can manipulate that file. And the JSON file for integration purposes, okay? But it's the same data in different formats. So I could transfer this to my laptop. Give me a second, I'll quickly show you how the report looks like, and you'll see here. Then the report is here. It gives you highly sensitive, assessment time, date of collection, date of report, reporter version, database identity, and a summary with all the findings. And then, of course, you can just click here and go to each section. For example, I know that there is a finding here on database configuration. So if I click here, I can see some of the findings, control files. Maybe I need another one. I need to check. There's no backups for the past 90 days. Okay, so that is something, yeah, that's true. I haven't backed up my database because this is a test database. I don't care much. It's there. Can click here to go to the top. I can check the other one is basic information. Oh yeah, my database is not patched. It says is supported, but latest patch is missing. So you know the patch is missing. And we got all the details about user accounts, default passwords, expired passwords, inactive users, sample schemas, application owner accounts, shared accounts, and so on. So that's how you execute DBSAT. And I guarantee you that you'll find useful information here for sure. This came directly from product development and product management. So I believe that this is a very valuable tool. If you haven't tried DBSAT, please have a look. So that was the demo. I did show you to run DBSAT collect and report. The DBSAT Discover requires you to go in under the Discover folder and conf, and then edit a configuration file there just to set the host, the port, and the service name. And then you can execute it, and it can also be executed remotely, and typically is executed remotely from a server or from your laptop or from another server that has access to the database. Simple to use. And I would say most customers are using DBSAT because of the security assessment part, step 1 and 2. Okay, so what else? I'm assessing a single database. I have 10, 100, 1000. What should I do, right? How can I use this at the enterprise-wide level? Well, and we have a solution for that. The big brother of security, the DBSAT tool is DataSafe. DataSafe is a cloud service. You can run it on the cloud and register targets that are on premises, cloud at customer, on OCI, on Azure, on AWS. We also support Amazon RDS, for example, in DataSafe. So wherever you have an Oracle database that you can connect to, you can use DataSafe. And DataSafe allows you to do a lot more than security assessment. It has user assessment, sensitive data discovery, data masking, activity auditing, and SQL Firewall management for the 23C feature. But on the security assessment itself, it will give you a similar type of assessment that you get on DBSAT. It actually uses DBSAT behind the scenes, but will also help you to set baselines. It will help you to get drift alerts. So if there is a change, you can get alerted. You can do comparison between reports, and you can filter just to show the CIS findings, or just the STIG ones, or just the GDPR, or just the high, just the medium, just evaluates. So it's a bit more than a single look at a single instance. And it also provides you with fleet view. So we aggregate data and show you the risks across multiple databases, and then you can drill down and see the risk in context of that particular database. We also have the user risk assessment that in essence analyzes roles and privilege grants and calculates a risk for that user. You can also see the user profiles. You can from here navigate to audit records. You get comprehensive insight across user profiles in many different databases. You can even check the password verification function from here. We had cases where customers had password verification functions that were in fact stealing passwords, so inserting the password in some other tables. So we are showing you here the password in case you want to review without having the need to go to each single database. If you don't want to use a cloud service, you can use AVDF. So Audit Vault and Database Firewall, that is mostly known for being a database activity monitoring solution for Oracle databases, and not only Oracle databases. It also started to support what is called the database security posture management, which in fact uses again the well-known DBSAT tool, and also provides you with all these things that I was sharing on the DataSafe slides. It will enable you to do comparisons, to set baselines, and all of that. So if you want to use a cloud service, great. If you have a mandate that you need to use some on-premises tool, you can use Audit Vault and Database Firewall for that. Or if you are using, you can upgrade to the latest versions. .9 and .10 releases include security assessment. And you can do that with AVDF. So in fact, you can run the assessment, discover sensitive data as well, do privileged user discovery and audit insights with AVDF as of now. There are some differences here and there to see between DataSafe, AVDF. They do mostly the same things. There are some things that are slightly different, but the goal and what you get out of it, it's quite similar. But in the end, it means you have options. So if you have never seen anything like this, I suggest, well, you start with DBSAT. If you find value, if you want to apply this to many databases, well, look at DataSafe and AVDF. Okay, one of these solutions is the right one for you. If you have Enterprise Manager, you can also use Enterprise Manager to check the DBSAT framework in there, and you can also do it in Enterprise Manager. Okay, still as unified consoles, especially DataSafe and AVDF, that is also becoming kind of a unified console. So I challenge you to try. Just try it and let me know how it goes. And if you find it useful, we are always looking forward for some feedback to improve the tool, to share it with other customers. So feel free to reach out with your comments, suggestions. For bugs, go to my Oracle support, please. But that's pretty much it from my side, Rich.
Thanks, Pedro. All right, everybody, we'll see you in January. I'm not quite sure what we're talking about, but please join us for the first presentation of 2024. That's going to be on Wednesday, the 10th of January.